computer and a cell phone to see that it gets on. Thank you for your patience.
No problem.
Like waiting for a souffle. You cannot open the oven door.
Yeah, just let it do its thing.
Absolutely. Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. My guest today was introduced to me by a previous guest, Sharon McCrae, and he has the most wonderful Instagram page. He has beautiful food. The way he plates his food is extraordinary. And I know he's going to do a wonderful demonstration of a very healthy version of a Caesar salad. You won't find any egg yolks or cheese or oil in this salad. And his name is Chef Collin Goodine, a perfect name for a chef. Goodine, welcome to the show.
Hi, Chef AJ. Thank you very much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Well, it is an honor. I love watching chefs like you work. I mean, I can tell by your Instagram page. I already know it's going to be delicious. I love the way you plate food. Is that something you learned in culinary school, or you just have a knack for that?
No, I think that's every chef has their own plating style, and then it's kind of adapted as you grow up. So I think it's the creative part of you, and it's actually the best, the funnest way to play with food. And you would know this more than, or the same as any other chef. But it's the creative part. It's like a canvas. The plate is a blank canvas, and you get to have as much fun as you want with it.
And just, because they always say we eat with our eyes, not literally, but it's so important, especially when it's healthy food, that it is visually appealing. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. We do eat with our eyes and our nose and our ears. Everything around us, the environment speaks to food until the last part of food is actually tasting it and chewing it into our digestion. But yes, eyes, the appeal of the food is very, very important. Yeah,
absolutely. That's why, like, when somebody's never been introduced to vegan food, the first thing, I don't serve them lentils is the first thing. It's delicious. And
right.
Yeah. Unless it's red lentils, it's not the most beautiful thing to serve somebody.
Right. But there's a lot of cuisine out there, like Indian cuisine and a lot of cuisine like that is so much flavor inside of it that we don't eat with our eyes. But when you taste it, you think, wow, it's mind blowing, because there's so much depth of flavor. It's crazy how much flavor they can build in just one pot of lentils, like you say.
And it's interesting that people that eat primarily animal products, their food, I mean, how do you make like meat look beautiful? Like when I think about Thanksgiving dinners in the past with families, they would have like on their plate a piece of white turkey with brown gravy, with white mashed potatoes with brown gravy. I mean, it wasn't visually appealing like the way vegan food is. I mean, fruits and vegetables are really the most beautiful food, in my opinion.
Absolutely. The rainbow, the garden, the nature gives us all of that color, and you can't get that with any kind of meat product. That's for sure.
Yep, absolutely. So where did you get this idea for today's recipe?
Today's recipe came from our friend Sharon, like you had mentioned. I was introduced to Sharon, and she introduced me to her lovely Forks Over Knives group. And I'm on a journey myself, and I continue to be on a journey. And she introduced me to SOS Free. And at the time, I was like, oh my goodness, what is this? And it was so intriguing, so interesting. And I love challenges. So I said, okay, I can make a dish. And then I started thinking, what am I going to make? And then I thought of Sunday brunch. And then I just went down this path of Sunday brunch. And that's where I came up with this salad.
That's, I don't even know you, and I already love you just by your attitude, because many people think that we're pains in the asses, vegans in general, but SOS Free in particular. But I love the way that you like, wow, this is kind of cool. I get to invent something new rather than, just have the steak.
Yeah. And a lot of times it's funny you say that, Chef AJ, because food, I think people look at food like it's daunting or it's a challenge and all of this stuff. But I mean, it should be fun first and foremost. And how you approach it is everything of what you get out of it. I think that's a huge part of food. Absolutely.
Yeah. What have you been doing as a chef? I know you're teaching a lot of extraordinary classes. They look amazing. But what was your history? Did you work in restaurants? What did you do?
Yeah, so I started in the restaurant business when I was 18, 19, about 27, 28 years ago. Started as a dishwasher, very classical. I went through the classical brigade of a chef and all the way up to head chef in high-end restaurants and hotels. And then I started my own restaurants, and then I started my own catering company. The whole time I'd cooked very classic. And up until last year when the pandemic hit, and I was actually in Miami, Florida, I had to shut down my business. And at that point, I switched my whole trajectory of food, and I started to use food as medicine. I started to cook intentionally. I started to help people cook intentionally. And at the time, we got them to open up their fridge and take a picture of it and send it to me. And I would say, hey, you can make this, this, and this. And I realized my superpower was showing people and being adaptive to the environment and saying, okay, you can cook. And then I went back to cooking school. Well, I didn't go back to cooking school. I went back to E. Campbell, so Collin Campbell's nutritional plant-based nutrition course. I took that and I got certified, and I met mind-blowing doctors, and the whole thought of food as medicine was changed and how it affects the environment. And that started a whole new mission and passion to share that with other people. So I'm on that journey. I changed that journey. I lost 30 pounds. I have more energy now than I ever did. I sleep more. I stress less. Food's fun again. So I started this whole healthy journey, and I'm still on it. And I want other people to join me.
That's amazing. I had no idea that weight loss was part of your journey.
Yeah, that happened organically, to be honest, because in the food industry, and you know this, it's you don't sleep a lot, and there is a lot of stress, and nutrition isn't the highest on the agenda because you're working so hard and so fast. And so when I stopped all of that, I think it was just honestly inflammation. I didn't change my diet radically, but I did sleep a whole lot less, and my inflammation went down. I was puffy. I thought I was big and strong because I was working out, but I think I was puffy more than anything, right, to be honest.
I realize, like, working in a restaurant, especially if you were the executive chef, it can be really stressful.
Very stressful, high stress, and that's not good for anything inside of our body, and you know that. So sleep is very important, and these are all things that I took for granted, to be honest. They're things that I never thought of as health, and now when I look at health and I look at the intention of food, it's a whole different ball of wax. And like you mentioned earlier, now it's fun to recreate things like lasagna and recreate things like the Caesar salad, and now I get to learn again, but I make it so much more healthy, and it almost makes it another dish. Like I made a raw lasagna, but it's not a lasagna at all. It's like a salad, but it's created and we call it a lasagna, but it's not. And yeah, it's a whole lot of fun for sure.
You went away. Yeah, there you go. Now you're back.
I'm back. Sorry.
I wish, I rarely eat it, not because of the pandemic, but I rarely eat at restaurants because I can't get, it's like to pay what I have to pay to get what I have to get. I'd rather just eat at home. I wish there would be places with creative chefs like you that could accommodate people that are not just whole food plant-based, but that are SOS free, because I know there probably just wouldn't be enough business to sustain it. But God, can you imagine how great it would be? Or if they could just have one thing on the menu that would accommodate us.
I think society is going that way. I think health is winning. I think we're definitely going that way. And you make a good point. Going out, you really don't know what's behind the closed doors. And if you don't have a passionate chef, or you don't have an intimate relationship with that chef, or you're afraid to even ask, there's a good chance there could be processed foods, and you might have sugars in there, and you really don't know where they're sourcing their food. But yeah, I would love to open a restaurant and say, this is what's coming out the door. I think it would be busy for sure. I think health food's there, but it's not yet. We're not there yet.
Yeah. Oh, great. So I can't wait to see your demonstration.
Yeah. So shall I start? We have okay. So we have a lot of things to do today, and I want to be very clear, Chef AJ, for everybody watching, that all of this mise en place, and what I mean by that is all these different items that go into this dish can be made a week in advance, can be made ahead of time. And I want to show as much as I possibly could today, so that people could even take one thing and put it in their fridge, whether that's the dressing or the tomatoes or the cereal or something. So it's not a daunting task. Like, you don't have to start this in the morning just for a salad. So it might seem like a lot, guys, but it's not. Because you can make it in succession and have it on Friday, but you can start it on Monday. So it's not so daunting. Either way, I have tried my best when Sharon asked, or when I started this dish, to bring out as much flavor from the food without adding anything to it, like sugars. I want to bring out the natural sugars. I don't want to lace it with oil. I'm going to let the food bring out its natural flavors so that we can taste it and enjoy it. So that's the whole premise behind it. So take notes. Write down on your recipes, do whatever you have to do to make this happen. You're going to love this for sure. And you're going to use this a lot during your journey. But before we start, I want to make sure that everybody watching does this moving forward, gets a wet paper towel and puts it underneath their cutting board. Anytime that you prep from here on in, put that underneath, just so your board stays flat on the counter. It'll act like a suction cup. And then when you're chopping, this board's not going to move anywhere. If you've ever struggled with that. So that's the first tip I can give you. There's a whole bunch, and hopefully I give you a lot. Unless your cutting board has little rubber feet and then it holds itself. If it doesn't, that's a good tip. And always have spoons beside you. Okay, so like Chef AJ, like you mentioned, this is made from in Canada, we call Bloody Marys Bloody Caesars. So the Sunday brunch, Caesars or Bloody Marys are a big part of that. And the Caesar salad is a big part of the lunch as well. So I took the two, smashed them together. I took out the sugar, took out the dairy, took out the oil, took out everything, and made a healthy version of the Caesar salad. So the first thing we're going to start with is, let's start with, can you see my board? Can you see that? Yeah. Okay. So the first thing we're going to start with is the bacon. Okay. So we're going to put bacon on our salad, but it's not bacon. We're going to be using rice paper. So this is brown rice paper. Okay. You can buy this pretty much anywhere. And we need to get this soft or flaccid or pliable. It's very rigid and it would crack right now. So when you make fresh spring rolls, this is what you're using. This may be something that you're used to. And I want to get it a little bit soft so that it's not so rigid when I put my sauce on it. So we want to give this some flavor and we want to make it look like bacon. So here I just have a pan of a little bit of water. It should be warm water. And all you're going to do is move your cutting board. All you're going to do is take your rice paper and you just want to get a little bit wet. So you just dunk it in the water just so it gets a little bit soft. You don't want it to get too soft though, okay? Because then it's no good. So you just want to get it a little soft and then you're going to want to dry it. So have a towel right beside you, put it down, just get it dry, somewhat dry, and then put that onto your cutting board. And you're going to do the same. So each piece has 2 pieces. So you're going to get 5 strips of bacon out of this, but you're going to have 2 pieces of rice paper. So once you do the first one, you're going to want to put seasoning on it. You want to make that flavor. And the way we do that is smoked paprika to give that smoky bacon flavor, right? You want that to come out. So smoked paprika, you could use liquid smoke. I'm not a fan of it, but you could. You're going to add date syrup. So I have paprika in this bowl, a little bit of date syrup, whether you make the date syrup yourself or you buy it from a good source. You want a little bit of stickiness and a little bit of sweetness in this. And then a little bit of tamari, gluten-free soy sauce. And that's it. You're just going to mix this up. It's going to give a nice red flavor, but color, sorry. But it's going to add a lot of flavor and make this rice paper look like bacon. So then you're going to use a brush, a pastry brush, or just spoon it on. So the piece that you've already got wet, you're just going to spoon around or brush around all of that flavor. And you want to get right to the edges. You want to make sure that the top piece is going to stick to this. Okay. And you don't have to worry about too much. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that about the air pockets. So you're going to go ahead and do the second piece, get it wet. And again, you're going to dry it. If you don't do this, the 2 pieces just won't stick together. So you need to do this. And then you're going to put it on top. Okay, and you'll see it instantly makes a suction and sticks together. But you want to work out those air bubbles. Don't worry about too much getting the air bubbles out because when it bakes, it's actually going to make that kind of curled up look that bacon has. It's kind of characteristic. So it's okay to leave a little bit of air bubbles, but not too much. Then there should be a little bit left. And you're going to put that on top and do the exact same. You're going to spread it around. And then you're going to cut bacon strips. So this is essentially it. It's very, very simple. It cooks very quickly at about 250, between 250 and 300 in your oven. You're just going to take a knife and I'm going to show you, I'll show you one raw if I can get it to cut. Probably won't. It might be able to. So depending on how wet you got it, you might have to press down or slice it depending. And then it should stick together. If it doesn't stick together, that's okay, but typically it would. Okay, and it's just gonna be like a long strip like this. So it's just gonna look like bacon, really. And then you put it in the oven and you bake it, and it actually ends up looking, you know, like crisp pieces of bacon.
Oh my God, how did you figure that out?
I'm not entirely sure how I figured this out, to be honest. I played around with it. It might've been just looking in books or seeing somebody do it. I can't really remember. But I've been playing around with it and it will work with 1 sheet, but I like 2 sheets because it makes that little ridge and that ruffle and it crisps up. It doesn't have a bitter flavor. It's got a kind of a sweet, salty flavor. It's really good. And you can chop it up and crumble it up like bacon bits if you want, put it in an airtight container, put it away, and you have bacon bits. So it's fun to put on salad. So that mimics the bacon part of our salad, which is very cool, I thought.
I think it's amazing.
So once you have the bacon done, you can set it aside. If you want to make, you know, tofu, eggs, and bacon, I mean, it's fun. You can make the plate look like you're having bacon and eggs, but you're not really. So I'm just going to set this aside, Chef AJ, and then move on to the next. So that's how you make rice paper bacon. So once our bacon's done and that's set aside, we can get into our sun-dried tomatoes or our oven-dried tomatoes. Okay, and we use Roma tomatoes. So this is the tomato part of your Bloody Mary. Okay, so this is really where you're getting all that flavor and all those vegetables with the V8 or whatever you would get, clamato juice, or I don't know what they put into the tomato, the Bloody Marys. But there's a tomato aspect and component to that. So this is very simple. It's one of my favorite recipes. I've done this one for a very, very, very long time. I used to put oil into it. There's really no need to put oil in it. So you're going to take tomatoes. And I use Roma tomatoes. So use Roma tomatoes for a couple of reasons. One, the size is perfect. And two, they're a little bit meatier. And they don't have a lot of juice. And we don't need a ton of juice from this. We want the meatiness to hold it. And you're going to turn this into a cup. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So you're just going to cut it without taking out the core. Leave the core in, okay? And just cut it in half this way, all right? Then you're going to take a spoon and you're going to hollow it out. You're just going to take the seeds out. And I like this little bullet because it's quick and it's easy and it handles small amounts of product. If you've ever had a blender and you put a small amount, your blade's whipping around, but it's not getting any of the product on the bottom, which is kind of an inconvenience. So this is really good. So you're just going to hollow it out just like that. And you're going to put this onto a baking sheet, okay? And you're going to notice that the tomato itself may not sit flat. So we have to take the bottom off. But you want this to hold on to juice, okay? So you can't put a hole in it. So you're just gonna take a sharp knife, and you're gonna cut off the back so that it lays flat on to a baking sheet, so that doesn't roll around in the oven. But don't cut all the way through. If you cut all the way through and there's a hole, you can just throw this tomato in here and we'll use that as part of the juice, okay? So you're gonna go ahead and do a couple. I think the recipe says 4 or 6. You can do as many as you want. And when you're doing this, you might want to do 24 of them because you're doing it one shot. It's going to take 24 hours or longer, depending on your dehydrator, depends on your oven. There's a lot of variables here. Cut the end off again. And you don't have to worry about chopping anything. You don't have to worry about being too fussy about the shallots or anything else going in here because the machine's going to do all that work for you. So once you have all this, you want to fill it. Okay, so you have this. I think the recipe calls for shallots, 2 shallots. So you're going to go ahead and put your shallots in. You're going to put your chili flakes in. I think the recipe calls for chili flakes. You're going to throw in your nutritional yeast for your vitamin B12. And it gives a little bit of a cheesy flavor, which is the cheese aspect of our Caesar. Okay, so I just cut them in half. So you saw how rough that was. There's really no refined part of chopping here. Let the machine do everything it does. And I don't want to make it too loud. I just wanted to show you how to do that. So you're going to do 24, do 12, do as many tomatoes as you need to. And then you're going to blitz this. Can I turn this on and make some noise? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Zoom is muting the noise anyway, so that don't worry about it.
Okay. So what you're going to be left with is a little bit of juice, really. It's tomato juice. It's got nice flavor. And then you pour it back into your tomato. Okay. So you just added some flavor to this. You bust it up so it's nice and smooth. And then you fill your tomato again. So now you've taken all the insides. It's like a double stuffed potato or something like that. You pop that in the oven or the dehydrator and let it go. And what it's doing now in the oven is it's letting the tomato bring out all the natural sweetness. And it ends up looking something like these, which are a little bit more dried out. They're super sweet and they have a nice acidity at the end of it, but there's nothing bad to this. You can fill this with anything you want. Just use the inside of that tomato and any other seasonings that you'd like and make a nice sun-dried tomato, okay?
That's cool. Lauren would like to know, how long does the rice paper bacon hold up in the fridge? And Kathy says, where can you buy rice paper?
Rice paper should be found at, well, definitely at Asian markets, but they're like Whole Foods here has it. I would even say Publix would have it. Most markets now, because it's so common for Asian spring rolls, just go down the international aisle There's usually an Asian section. They're there. Find your favorite. They kind of vary. Some are very thin and hard to work with. Some are a little bit thicker. Find your favorite and go with that and stick with that brand. But how long will the bacon hold? I wouldn't put it in the fridge. There's really nothing that's going to go bad in that fridge. In the rice paper bacon. It's all pantry goods. If you either bust it up into bacon bits or hold like that, just airtight, put it in your pantry. It'll hold, I don't know, indefinitely until it starts getting soft and chewy. If it stays crunchy, it's still good. It's not going to get bad like, let's say fruits and vegetables. There's nothing perishable that's going to go bad. Okay.
Absolutely. I saw this rice paper at Sprouts the other day, so it's pretty common now.
Yeah, I think it's fairly common. Okay, so that's your tomatoes. Any questions on that? No?
Not yet.
Okay, so the tomatoes go in. Again, we saw what they end up looking like. And you can do, Chef AJ, you can do this with any kind of tomatoes. Cherry tomatoes work really, really well. I put them on a kale Caesar. They shrivel up to little, like little gumdrops. There's like sweet little explosions in your mouth. So cut them in half, toss them in all the same kind of components and pop them in the oven or the dehydrator and let them go. And you have it's like raisins, right? It's like grapes into raisins. It's the same concept, same idea. So that's two parts that you've already done. You can do them ahead of time. Those will last in the fridge for a while, a long while, at least a week. I mean, longer than that, but I'm safe to say a week for sure. But they're not going to last long in your fridge because you're going to throw them on everything. You're going to put them on every salad you make. You might just eat them on their own. You might put them on avocado toast. I don't know what you're going to do with them. But they're addictive and you'll eat them. So the next part is let's make the dressing. So this is a dressing, SOS free. Again, I've always used oils as an emulsification. I was just taught 2 parts vinegar, 1 part vinegar, 3 parts oil, make your vinaigrette, and that's how it's done. You don't need to do that. So in the back here, the recipe says to make a date syrup. So I have a little bit of water. Actually, no, that's the oats. So here I have carrots, vegetable stock, and a date. And the only thing I'm doing here is cooking the carrots. So if you're following this recipe, cut your carrots fairly small because you add 4 cups of liquid. If you had big carrots, your liquid's going to reduce and you're going to end up with not enough liquid for the recipe. So cut them fairly small so that they cook quickly. If you cut them big, and the variable there is you need to add a little bit more water, just have a little bit more water on deck. When you make your dressing, you can just add a little bit more water to thin it out to meet the consistency that you want in your dressing, okay? So once they're cooked, you have carrots, again, water and dates in there. And then you're gonna need thyme, roasted garlic, lemon, apple cider vinegar, and tahini. That's it, okay? This recipe, if you're looking at the recipe, says garlic puree. And then if you look at, I think the method, there's a method there for roasted garlic as well. So I just want to show you how to roast garlic. So this is another way to bring out sweetness in garlic. You may have in the past lifestyle, you might have had roasted garlic and brie. That's when it became very popular when I was young and started out in cooking. So they would do the same, follow the same process. So you put a garlic bulb, and I want to show you. So here's organic garlic. Just cut the top off, okay? Just to expose the top of the garlic. That's all you're gonna do. These little cloves on the top here, you can save and cut them up and use them any way that you want. And then we need to roast it. So we have to put it into tin foil, but I don't like metals. As soon as they hit a certain temperature, they kind of go into the food. So I don't wrap anything in tin foil, but we need to. So always have parchment paper. So this is unbleached parchment paper. Put that down first, put your garlic bulb in it. Typically, a lot of people would add garlic and salt here. We're not going to do that because there's absolutely zero need. And all you got to do is fold this up like an envelope. Just fold it over like this. Just make sure that the tin foil is not touching the bulb. You can do 5, you can do 6, you can do 25. It doesn't matter how many you're going to do. And just close it up so that when it creates steam, it stays in there and helps cook the garlic. So you really just are going to make a little purse. So that's all you're going to do. Your garlic's going to sit flat. You're going to put that in the oven, high temperature, 350, 375, let it go. It takes about a half hour to 45 minutes. And when you open it, what you're left with, you'll see it gets nice and dark. So the inside of garlic doesn't look like that. It's the same idea as if you're fermenting garlic, just a whole lot quicker. It doesn't take, 8 weeks to make it. It doesn't have the fermented properties, but you smell it. it's identifiable as soon as you've ever had roasted garlic, it smells like that. And then when you press it, you can see, I'm gonna see if I can do this dropping it on the floor. When you press it, see how it oozes out? So that right there is like garlic paste. Okay, and it's got a very distinct flavor. So roasted garlic is delicious. I would suggest using this in this recipe. You don't have to, you can just puree garlic, but I wanted to show you how to roast garlic. So again, foil, parchment paper, just put it in the oven. Do a couple. You can spread this onto rice crackers or anything you love to eat. It adds a different layer of flavor, a nice added garlic sweetness to anything you add it to. And it will stay in the fridge in a jar for a while, a long while actually. So once that's done, you can start your salad dressing. So again, we have that here. You're gonna need a high-speed blender. And once your carrots are cooked and your dates are ready and your stock's there, you're just gonna add it all to your blender. At this point, you can add everything else, okay? And I always have water on standby. Like I mentioned before, I play with the consistency because there is a couple variables here. So once that's all in there, I'm gonna add my tahini. I think it's 2 tablespoons. I'm gonna add apple cider vinegar. You can add any kind of vinegar you like, if you like, you know, rice wine vinegar or anything sweet like that, but the carrots are gonna be sweet enough here, and you added a date. There's a lot of sweetness here, just some kind of acidity that you want. So I have a lemon. You can juice a little bit of lemon in here, but I'm gonna take the zest. Okay, so I just want to take a zester, and I'm just gonna add a little bit of lemon zest to it. I actually might add a little bit of lemon to it. Cooking, the fun part about cooking, and you can attest to this, Chef AJ, is the fact that a recipe to me is a guideline. It's, here's what I would suggest putting in it, and then you get to have fun with it and say, you know what, I don't really like that, I'm gonna add more of this. And you really make it your own, and then that becomes your own recipe. Okay, a little bit more acidity there. And then thyme. So I have fresh thyme here. I just want the thyme leaves, okay? So we take the bottom or the top, doesn't matter, we're just gonna push forward. That tree or bush that you did as a kid, remember, I don't know if you ever did that, Chef AJ, but we used to play this game, tree or bush, where you pull it up and guess if it's gonna be a tree or a bush. So you do that kind of thing, and you just push all the leaves forward. At the top of thyme, usually it's very tender. You just don't want these big stalks in there. It's not very desirable, although this will pulverize it probably enough that it's digestible, but you don't want to do that. And you don't have to chop up this thyme, just put them in there. I'm gonna put a couple more.
Do you have a favorite herb or spice?
I don't have a favorite, to be honest. There's so many out there. And since I started getting into Ayurveda a little bit, my whole spice world kind of blew up. And I've been adding a lot of different spices, and I use the Ayurvedic balance of the doshas and balance of energy in food a lot. So I play with a lot. As long as they're fresh, as long as herbs are fresh, they're all good. I'm not a fan of rosemary, to be honest. I have to say, there's one I don't like. I'm not a fan of rosemary. I don't know why.
It can be overpowering.
Yeah, I think maybe that's what it was. Maybe I forgot to put my garlic in. I think I might have eaten it somewhere where somebody used a lot of it and it just turned me off. You know, some people with cilantro has that same effect on them. I didn't put my garlic in. So I'm just going to squeeze the bulb here. Try to get as much of that goodness as you can. And if you need to, you can dive in with a spoon, a knife or a fork, and pull out each clove. Some of them don't like to come out, so you have to help them along. Okay. Then all we need to do is puree this till it's nice and smooth. If you like ginger, because you like carrot and ginger flavor together, like in soups, you can definitely add ginger here. You can add turmeric. Again, make it your own, but this recipe will work. And then you're just going to blitz it till it's nice and smooth. So I'm going to turn this on. So this dressing is best the smoother you can get it. So I want to show you. Mine didn't go very long, but you can see, I don't know if you can see the thickness of it, but see how it's fairly thick. I would let this go a little bit longer, okay? If I was you, in your food processor. If you have a high-powered Vitamix, mine's a Ninja, so Vitamix I find are a little bit more powerful. But if you do have a Ninja, which work really great as well, you can use this. This is more powerful. We'll get it nice and smooth. You just have to do it in batches. So you'll take this, put a little bit in, blitz it, turn it out. But if you get it super, super smooth, there's nothing better. This is an amazing SOS-free dressing that you will use on a lot of things for sure, okay? So I'm gonna leave mine right there and then move on to the croutons of our Caesar dressing. So we have dressing, we have cheese, we have bacon, we have the tomato, we have almost all the components here. The last thing is our croutons. And I didn't want to do a typical crouton. I don't really like the norm. So I wanted to change it. And I wanted to give you the option here of making something that is very versatile. So this is a cereal that I make based from a granola, and you can use it in any way you want. So a parfait, you can use it, just as cereal on its own, add your favorite nut milk to it. It's a great snack on its own. It's got so much flavor, but not a lot of sugar. And it's hard to find a granola out there that, isn't laced in sugar or isn't, full of something that you don't want in your body. So this one is dead simple. And it is I'm a huge fan of it because it looks like this. So mine's a little darker, okay? Because again, I used buckwheat in mine. So your recipe has almond flour. So buckwheat's a little bit darker. And so it comes out in like big nuggets, which I love. I don't like the nice, small little guys. I like really big pieces of granola. And so that's why I figured this would be a great crouton for our salad. And for you, it will be a great anything else you want to do with it. So it's super, super simple. I gave you a guideline with a recipe. Do as much as you'd like with it. So back here, we have water and dates. We essentially made a date syrup. And I did not pulse this. I didn't do anything with it. I just let nature take its course and they bust it up. So I might use a fork and break it up, but I actually don't mind the big chunks of dates in my granola. So you're gonna need a big bowl and a food processor. And all you're gonna do is add everything to the food processor. So I have gluten-free oats here, and these are rolled oats. Again, I have buckwheat flour. In the recipe, it says almond flour. I also have a trick here that you may want to write down. If you put half of your oats in now and you bust them up, they're going to become fine. And if you throw half of them in at the end, you'll actually see bigger pieces of oats in your granola. So this is where you're going to play a little bit with your own recipe. So if you wanted to keep some aside, keep some aside. Okay. In this jar, I have pumpkin seeds, cashews, and walnuts. I think there's 1/4 cup of each. You can use any kind of nut you want, any kind of seed you want. These are the ones I'm going to use. You throw them in here. Flaxseed. I can look at the recipe. I think it's a 1/4 cup. I don't know. You could add chia here. You could add hemp hearts. You can add anything you want. What I'm getting at here is this is your favorite granola cereal, and the only sweetness is that date, okay? So the dates will vary. I think I have 4 to 6 in the recipe. There's no need for more than that, but if you do like it a little bit sweeter, go ahead and add more dates, okay? And you're just gonna pulse this. You're not really gonna bust this up till it's a fine powder. You're just gonna pulse it. You want the nuts to break up, but you don't want it to be, like I said, a powder. Okay. If you're using almond flour, it's a little bit more coarse, but I wouldn't use anything else. Like I wouldn't. Well, you can use probably teff, something like that for your body, depending on what you love. But they're just busted up. It's a little bit smaller, not too small. There's not a whole cashew. And then all you're gonna do is take this water and dates. You're gonna add it here. Okay. You're gonna use a pair of gloves, your hands, a fork, doesn't matter. And you're just going to mix it up. So this is where you are going to make this homogenized and flat, like a typical granola, or you're going to make it like your granola and nice and chunky and not break it up too much. Okay. So just break this up. These big pieces, bust up your dates a little bit. All you want to do here is make sure that your almond flour and your granola get a little bit of moisture just to hold it together. Okay. And if you wanted more moisture, you can definitely add more water, but I wanted to show you if I can. All these little, see how big pieces are like that? So all you're going to do now is take this and you're going to put that onto a baking sheet, and you're not going to flatten it out. You're not going to do anything. You're just going to let it sit in your oven and dry out. All you want to do is take out the moisture here and make it nice and crunchy. And then you end up with something like this. And that's what you have. So you now made cereal for yourself. Okay.
So cool. Do you always make your own vegetable broth from scratch?
I do. Yes, 98% of the time, unless I'm in a pinch or I'm stuck somewhere where I can't and I need to get it done in less than a half hour. It only takes a half hour, but I save all of my scraps. So if I was prepping here on like a Sunday or a Monday, it doesn't matter what day it is, I usually have a bowl where I put most of my scraps that I can use for a veg stock. There is some that I put in the compost and that goes out to the garden and stuff like that. But there is stuff that I put in veg stock. And if I don't have enough at that time to make a veg stock, I'll freeze it. And when I do have enough, I take it out and I make a veg stock, and then you can freeze that veg stock. So you should always have, it takes a little bit to start, but there's so much. I mean, we all cook, so we all have scraps that we can definitely make into veg stock. So that's a long answer, but short answer is yes, most of the time.
Do you ever use any of the tools that Sharon and I love so much, like the Instant Pot or an air fryer?
Oh my goodness. You know what? It's funny you ask. I had a friend who was going away and said, Chef Collin, here is my air fryer. I want to see what you're going to do with this. He was very excited. And I was like, oh, I can't wait to use this. So there's two things. One, the air fryer has the one he gave me has a Teflon coating, which I don't like. It gets too hot and I don't like the Teflon coating. So I tried it just to see if I can come up with something. But there are really good ones out there with ceramic and stuff like that. And you know what? I couldn't make anything in it. I burnt everything. So I really need a tutorial. So I need you or Sharon to actually tell me how to use an air fryer, because I don't. And I always said that I'm going to use an Instant Pot because they make life so much easier. But my fear is that I've been taught technically how to do this, and I don't really know how. So I'm not ignorant to learn it, but I just right now kind of almost scared to learn it, but I have to learn it.
I think because you're such a classically trained chef, that's part of your resistance. Because Chef Ramses Bravo, the executive chef of True North, for 10 years, he, made fun of me like I'm not a real chef because I use an Instant Pot. And when he actually came to my house, I gave him one. And yes, of course, he doesn't cook in it like what you're doing, but for certain things, like for making beans, he's like, yeah, I really do use it now.
Yeah, I can see there's a lot of versatility, and I see what people are making in it, and I'm thinking, my goodness, I need to learn how to use this. And that nutterator that
the nuts for milk. Oh my God, it's on special now, guys. I keep forgetting to post it. It's 20% off. Yeah, you know what I love about that, not just for the plant milk. It's funny, I bought it for one reason, I ended up using for another. So it does make plant milk with either zero waste or minimal waste. But then I found out that it's just a better food processor than my Cuisinart. Like to do a crust, like I'm processing for like 30 seconds. Literally, it's so powerful. So yeah, it's a great machine. Yeah, I'm hoping to have a contest for my pretty soon is my 500th episode of this show. You're episode 486, and I'm going to see if I can get them to donate one, and then maybe you could win it.
Yeah, that looks really fun. I need to get one of those. That looks like it's a game changer for sure. That must save a lot of time. But no, so not unfortunately, I will. And when I do, you can have me back on, and I can show you all the things that I can do in it, which I'm sure you've already done and experienced. But they're amazing. I know they are, and I'm going to get there for sure. Okay, go ahead.
No, I was just wondering, because no matter who the guest is, our audience loves to know what you eat. And I always love to know what chefs eat, because so many of them say, yeah, cereal for dinner, because they cooked all day. They don't want to do anything for themselves.
Yeah, so my day starts now that I've changed to online. I have a lot more time to nourish my body, and I have a lot more clients online. So a lot of my diet is depictant of what they're cooking. So let's say I was making a Tuscan bean stew the other day for a client, showing her how to make it. So that's what I ate. A lot of my diet does come from what I'm teaching. So it's always very interesting and it's always changing. But on the regular, I'll wake up and, I'll eat a good fat, or I'll eat the cereal. Cereal's a component. Fruits, I usually eat fruits in the morning. Lunches, I always have my biggest meal at lunch because my digestion's the highest then. And then I slow down and I eat dinner, a small dinner. I might have a soup, a vegetable soup for dinner, something very light at night so that my digestion doesn't work hard. But during the day, I'll have a big power bowl and I'll chock it full of anything and everything that I possibly can to get me through the day and give me energy, and lots of water. I drink tons and tons of water.
Great.
That's
Pretty
much what I do.
Do you have time to exercise?
Yeah. Yes, I do have time. Do I all the time? No, I'll find an excuse to not. But movement is a huge part of my daily routine or my weekly routine. So I try to 4 to 5 times a day. Yeah, some kind of exercise, even if it's just stretching. I think everybody should move in some way, shape, or form.
I love your honesty. Do you have time to exercise? Yes. And that's a different question. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a different question altogether. And ironically enough, my wife is a movement specialist and I still don't. So,
wow. Well, we'll have to have her on the show showing some of her techniques.
Yeah, she's amazing for sure. Okay, so that's it. So that's it. That's all the components that we need to complete this Caesar salad. The last thing that we can't do ahead of time, obviously, is romaine. So I use romaine hearts. You can use romaine, whole romaine. You can use baby gems, which are the baby romaines, which are beautiful and amazing. If they're in season, definitely get those because they're great. I like these because they're more tender. I don't discard the outside. I use the outside for like power bowls, or I'll just chop them up in whatever I'm doing. But the hearts I really, really like because I don't chop them up like a Caesar salad. So if you did have a big head, guys, you're just going to take off the outside, whatever's bad, and just take this off and not discard it, but set it aside and use it for whatever. So if you wanted to make your own Caesar, like traditional Caesar, you would just chop it. Okay, put it in a bowl and toss it in your dressing that we made. But I don't do that. I kind of do a deconstructed or a composed salad. It looks a little bit nicer, like you said at the beginning. We eat with our eyes, right? So I'll use this heart, which is the center, and I will cut it like this. So depending on the canvas I have, if it's a big platter for, let's say a wedding or something like that, or a big function, which we don't have many of those anymore. Or outside gatherings anyways. So I would keep it whole and I might do like crisscross or whatever, and there'd be a big salad. So I don't have a plate that big. So I cut this down smaller, but I do like the pieces. See how it's still together in these wedges? So I'll cut that in half. So I end up with 4 pieces that I let the client cut it up themselves and try little bits of this and little bits of that. And so each bite's a little bit different. The same with a power bowl. So that's what I like to do. That's how I usually plate. Okay, I try to make it a little bit art piece, but by all means, chop this up, throw it in a bowl, toss everything together, and make it like a Caesar salad. Okay, does that make sense? And I always wrap it in these paper towels. If you're wondering what this is, just a wet paper towel. I put it around the bottom of my romaine, and I put it in the fridge that way, just to keep it moist at the bottom. And I think that's from what I used to do in industry, and I just relate it to my house. I know in a household, it might add a little bit more moisture. And I think I've had that conversation with a lot of people. So the humidity in here might change, and that may be the case, but keep it in the crisper. Okay. And I wrap it tight. I go through it pretty quick so it doesn't sit around too long. Okay. So then we get to the plating part of things. And this is the most fun. This is where you get to do whichever and whatever you'd like. So we're just going to put this thing together. Maybe I'll plate 2 kinds. So I would just crisscross back and forth. And honestly, this can be anything that you'd like, but I try to keep it in the center. So I like the rim of the plate, or I like the white around the plate. So like this is just crisscross right in the middle. So it sits up nice and high, maybe not functional, but that's the way I do it. Okay. And then you're going to build your salad. I always put my dressing on and then everything else on top. So my garnishes. So the way I do this is the big substance is on the bottom. And then I put my dressing on because you can see that, unless I had another dressing to go on the outside, but we'll talk about that another time. So right now I just want to put my dressing on. And it'll be a little bit smoother. If it's not smooth, it may split on you. I'm just going to tell you that now. It may, typically the water, if it's not homogenized, if it's not whipped enough, the water that we had in there might come away from the actual carrot. So you need to whip that enough that it comes together and stays together. If that makes sense. Okay. And then I definitely put some on the salad itself. But as I do it, I go around so that that white piece is going to see that beautiful orange color that we created with the carrots. Okay, so something like, can you see that? Can you see the orange around it?
It's
so
beautiful.
that's kind of what I do. And so you might want to make like a nice. What's
Who
that?
knew? I said it's funny. I decided to wear orange today.
It's like you knew. And then yeah, we get to put. You can cut these beautiful tomatoes in slivers and put them around. You can do anything that you want. That's the beautiful thing here is you get to do whatever you want. And that's the most fun as a chef or as a pastry chef, I think, is creating, and seeing people's eyes light up or whatever.
Dina would like to know where in Canada you're from.
Just outside Toronto, Niagara-on-the-Lake. So Niagara Falls is probably the most recognizable town that's really close. It's about 20 minutes from us. So Niagara-on-the-Lake is a small little farming town. We are known for the Shaw Festival, so festival theater and farming. So we have grapes and peaches. And back home, I have a little farm where I have bees and like peaches and grapes and a huge garden. I miss it, that's for sure. So yeah, the bacon can go in pieces, or you can chop this up. So you look at it and you say, you know what, I don't know, maybe I want to do this, maybe I want to do that. It's like building a little piece of art, and then your granola on top of that. So this is your bacon and your croutons. If you wanted to, if you make your own cheese, I don't know if anyone on here makes their own cheese, but if you made your own cheese and it's a nice firm piece of cheese, you could definitely grate it over top and have it like snow on top of it and build it up. That would be great. This is going to add a nice crunch. So you have the crunch from the bacon, the crunch from the lettuce, the sweetness from the dressing. You might get a hint of smokiness, but all in all, that's going to be your salad when it's done. I don't know, can you see that? I don't know if you can see it. I can't really tilt it.
Yeah, no, I can see it. It's beautiful.
Yeah, okay. So that's really how to make a simple, fun Caesar salad that's SOS free and good for you.
It looks amazing. Angie wants to know how long the dressing lasts in the refrigerator.
The dressing will last a long time. I'm going to say 2 weeks. I wouldn't suggest making that much, but we have quite a bit here. If it's fresh carrots, like if your carrots weren't going off, then I'd say you got 2 weeks on it.
Great. Would you like to talk about the classes that you teach?
Yeah, sure. So I have online classes. So I have online classes that are typically part of my D2R program. So I have an online coaching program that meets people where they are right now on their journey, whether it be weight loss or whether they've been diagnosed to have a raw diet or they just want to eat better, whatever that is. We're all different. We're all customizable and we all have different intolerances. So where they are to where they need to go, that's what the D2R teaches them. And so we teach them how to identify problems, and we journal and we go back and we reset their microbiome, and then we move forward and we reset their kitchen so that it serves them properly. And then we make a menu for them and help them cook that menu so that moving forward, they're not stressed and they're eating food that prevents disease. So that's my D2R. Within that D2R, we have cooking classes every Wednesday. And you don't have to be part of the D2R to join those cooking classes, but every Wednesday at 5:30, we teach things like this. We teach things that are, good for you, healthy for you, but they're not specific. So my cooking classes aren't SOS free, or they're not, this way or that way. They're designed to help people just have confidence in the kitchen. They are always gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free. They're always healthy for you, but they are not designed to not have mushrooms or not have garlic, if you know what I mean. So they're not designed specifically for you. That's a one-on-one. So that's what the D2R program is all about. And then there's a Facebook group, and there's a lot of what I call chef in your pocket. So I'm on speed dial if you need me 24/7 to help you out if you're grocery shopping or need some help. I'm here to support, and I want people to live a healthier life and prevent disease. And that's my goal. And the only way I can do that is through my superpower, and that's show them how to cook fun food healthy.
Wow, that's amazing. You know, I put what you gave me in the show notes, but you didn't really give the contact. So please get that to me and I'll put that in the show notes so people can follow you and contact you and take classes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, 5:30. And we do one-on-one classes too. And we do corporate classes. So people want to buy it for their clients or buy it for friends. I've done birthday parties, you know, girls have come on and they can't see their friends right now. So we all get on Zoom and we cook together, show them how to roll sushi or something. I don't know, whatever they want.
That's such a great idea. People are asking about how you use buckwheat and if almond flour and buckwheat flour are interchangeable.
In most recipes, no. So in this granola, yeah. So I can see the concern there. So if you were to make, let's say, I don't know, macaroons, you couldn't use buckwheat. You'd have to use, you know, almond flour. There's a lot of recipes. So I'm going to say no, to be safe. No, they're not interchangeable in most recipes. This one here, they are interchangeable. Like you can use teff, you can use whatever kind of flour. You can actually omit it. Doesn't matter because you have the oats, you have the water, you have the dates. It's going to end up like a crunchy granola. This is just a way to get buckwheat in. This is a way to get those into your diet. So if you remember, I said you can do whatever you'd like with that. I really mean that. You can put whatever you want, as long as there's staples like water. So you need a little bit of liquid. You need the sweetness, and you need the actual nuts and oats. And you're not going to use gluten-free flour. You're not going to use any other kind of flour, but you could. Yeah.
Have you ever competed in an Iron Chef type competition?
A long time ago. Yeah. And so when I started out, when I first, my first catering company, when I was 21, I started, I did an Iron Chef competition and I didn't do so well. But it was an eye-opening experience for sure. My chef said, you can do it, you can win, you can get in there. And it was for apprentices. It wasn't for like the chef elite level, but that was the only time that I did that. I did not compete, but I came close to getting on Chopped Canada. Is it Chopped Canada? Yeah, Chopped Canada. I got to the part where we had an actual interview. I don't know if I wasn't pretty enough or not, but I didn't get on.
Well, the reason I asked is if you enjoy them, I'm going to be doing like Iron Chef weeks with the chefs that have been on this show. And because not everybody likes to compete, you know, some people would just prefer doing demonstrations, but you seem like you really would be really good at it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to do that.
Okay.
I would love the opportunity. If the question is, would you like to? Yes.
100%. Okay. So what we need to do is find a chef that you could go against, because we try to make it fair. I mean, you know, like we if you're a real chef, so we don't want to like put you against, you know, a home cook. You know what I mean? Like we try to.
Yeah.
So if you can think of somebody that you would like to go against, I will coordinate that. The week has probably already been scheduled, but I'm trying to think. Maybe something like Chef James Sant, you know, we need like a chefy chef. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, that'd be a whole lot of fun.
So, well, is there anybody you know that's in our world that you can think of, or anybody watching thinks good against that you've seen on the show?
Maybe there's a couple of vegan chefs down here in West Palm that I could reach out to for sure.
Perfect.
Chef.
So let's set it up. I think that'll be amazing.
Yeah. Okay. So how do they judge that, Chef AJ?
Well, okay. So you really can't judge it because it's Zoom, there really is no winner. And that's the nice part about it. So the way we've done it, we've only done one so far, Gerudi versus Crocs. These are both YouTubers. And so what I did is I contacted the spouses, and we hope that everyone would be honest. And also I can trip you up if you want, but the reason I do these Iron Chefs is really to show people that if you came home from work and all that was in your refrigerator, some leftover black beans, a bell pepper, and a sweet potato, you can make an amazing meal. So I try to pick very familiar ingredients that people have easy access to or probably already have in their house. And so we get either a spouse or somebody to buy it or make it. And of course you can use any pantry things. And then we give you, you know, the show to make it. And we do a split screen so that you guys can, you know, it's just really in fun. And people make amazing recipes doing that.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's a great idea. Yeah. And so needed.
I'd love to have you back because you're been a culinary instructor for over 20 years and you are just a natural teacher, very good at articulating information.
Well, thank you. Hopefully everybody, can take one element, and that's a huge step, right? Hopefully they enjoy this.
Dina's saying I should go against you. The only problem is who's going to run this part. I can't, I could just keep running back and forth from the kitchen, but thank you. No, I actually like Iron Chefs because a lot of the recipes in my books were created under pressure like that, just by people saying 3 things that I never thought would necessarily go together.
Yeah. And the interesting part is that you can see how someone might come up with something and you're like, wow, I would never think of that. And everyone's mind works so differently. And that's amazing to see come out in food when you give somebody some and then, 7 things come out of the same product. And that's really cool.
What was so great, and if you guys haven't seen the episode of Crocs versus Giroudi, I think we gave them sun-dried tomatoes, sweet potatoes, and I think there was and cauliflower, and 2 completely different dishes, 2 completely different interpretations.
Yeah, amazing. I'm sure they both taste lovely.
Yeah, well, you're such a treasure, Sharon. I see Sharon's watching live. You find the best people. I always said Sharon should be my booker because she.
She's great.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I mean, like you say, even if people didn't want to make the salad, you've given us so many ideas and so many components. You can make the dressing, they can make the bacon, they can make the cereal.
Yeah, or the tomatoes. Absolutely. All of them on their own are great, but when you bring them all together, and perfect example is you segued into it, is you come home. That's what these are all about. This is why you have this mise en place done, because you can go in the fridge and you only got 5 minutes, but you did the work. You have a dressing already. You have a tomato. All you need to add is a lettuce and something else, and you have a dinner, right? These things help that 10 minutes become very stress-free.
Those 3 words you said in French are the most important thing, mise en place. If people would do that, people get so overwhelmed, and that is because they don't do the mise en place.
Yeah, I often say, not often, I always say that preparation beats motivation. And if you're prepared, you can, your day becomes a whole lot easier.
And because people wonder, like when I teach cooking classes through this company called Chibo that's owned by General Electric. And a lot of the chefs that do it, they'll do like 1 recipe in a 90-minute class or 2, and I'll do like 9. And like, how can you do it? Well, because I did my mise en place. That's why.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes it fun and easy. And then you're not stressed, and so many people learn. I try to tell people all the time, and a lot of, I don't know, maybe you can speak to this too, but a lot of people meal prep, I guess, like for the week. I have a lot of clients that say on Sunday, I prepare my meal. And I said, well, what is your meal on Saturday? What does that taste like? What does that look like? You've got 5 days in between. So I try to teach them to make like little things like this throughout the week so that they can have different meals, fresh meals. All you need is fresh produce. Just bring in a fresh item and cook it. And you have all the supporting cast around it, I suppose. And then it heightens and it makes it fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, that's a great way to do batch cooking, like where you have some, and then each day you kind of add a component. It makes it a lot less overwhelming than having to like spend a whole day doing one thing.
Yeah, and this granola, we'll make granola probably for the week. So you make it once, and the cool thing is you put it in the oven, and you can go about doing whatever you got to do. It's going to take care of itself. Same with the tomatoes. You can put it in at night and go to sleep.
Yeah.
Just leave the light bulb on.
I don't know if you do this, and this is one thing I teach everyone, is you can actually do your mise en place. You can almost like batch prep your mise en place. So what I mean is, for example, there's a recipe that I make all the time because my husband loves it. It's called the desert date shake, and it's got like maybe 7 different spices. And what I do is I take 12 jars and I measure it all like one time. And then when I get to jar number 11 use, I do it again. And I do that for all the soups and stews I make, because then I don't have to do it every time I make recipes that I make all the time.
Yeah, I saw you did that, and it's brilliant. There's a lot of little things I take from you, and we can never stop learning, for sure. And that's one of them, and it's great. And I was like, look at guys, like I felt like saying to all my clients, like, look, she did it once and it's lasted her this long. Like, it takes the stress right out.
It's so much easier. Or like, like I can never even imagine like cooking 1 potato. Like, even if I was single, it just makes no sense. You're using the same amount of, you can, almost everything can be frozen. So yeah, I love that. So Lauren wants to know how you ended up in Florida.
Because I don't like cold, and it's cold in Canada. That's how I ended up here. So we came here last year, like I said, to Miami, and that's where we normally went. And this year with COVID, we said Miami's going to be crazy, so maybe we shouldn't go there. Let's go to West Palm. It's probably a little bit more laid back. So we came here. That's how I ended up in West Palm itself. And I love it here. I love the sunshine, for sure. It beats the cold. But I do miss my little farm, and it's a different life here, but that's why and how I'm here in Florida. So we're set to go back May or June.
Wait, so you're not permanent for the United States?
No, I don't. Not yet. I could say that out loud. Not yet.
Well, you could be, I live in the desert and half the people that live here are from Canada, but they only live here 6 months of the year. We call them snowbirds.
Yeah. So that's essentially what I am. I'm a snowbird. Come here, then I go back. Yeah.
I didn't realize they had Canadian snowbirds in Florida, but anyway, and our dearest friends are the snowbirds. And when they leave, I just miss them so much because they can only stay 180 days and they don't have health insurance. And I'm like, just please move here. Right. It's too cold there. Well, you're an extraordinary chef and a wonderful guest, and please come back anytime, whether it's for an Iron Chef or just another one of these amazing cooking demos.
I would love to. Honestly, thank you for having me here. This was great. I could do this all day, and I want to come back, and I would love to compete in your Iron Chef. Absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely. And just so you know, every guest the first time they're on, because sometimes guests come on more than once, gets 2 free bottles of California balsamic vinegar. And the owner of the company, Thomas, is watching today, so we'll hook you up. I don't know if you've ever tried his vinegar, but it's really, really good.
I haven't. Thank you, Thomas. Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you. Yeah, I haven't.
You're such a great person. I could talk to you all day, but I'm sure you probably have things to do. Please send me those links so that we can have them clickable so that people can find out about you.
Absolutely. I will. Thank you very much. Thanks, Chef AJ.
Thank you, Chef Collin. And thank you, Sharon, for the great recommendation. And please come back tomorrow. I should know who my guest is by now. Oh, we have another cooking demo, and she's just written a new book, previous guest. She's also a podcaster, Shoshana Chine. Thanks again, Chef Collin. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.